Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by PointsBet. Use the promo code CHGO when you sign up to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. It's a Monday. I'm Luke Stuckmeyer. Cody Delmendo's here, Ryan Herrera, and in just a few minutes, the Cubs director of morale, Dom Frederic, with a guest appearance on the podcast. Let's get right to it. A lot happened over the weekend, but I want to talk about, first of all, Patrick Wisdom, guys. 2 home runs. I was watching not all of that game on Sunday, and I thought, wait a minute. You know, we haven't talked a lot about Patrick Wisdom going into this, and I think a lot of people were torn in the offseason wondering which Patrick Wisdom would show up this year. But if he's the guy that shows that power and can make a little more contact, all of a sudden you've got something that's going to really be a big boost for your season. I thought it was a great thing to see in a spring training game, even though it's just Cactus League.
Yeah, I mean, he'd really been struggling, honestly, up until those 2 home runs. So, you know, I'm not someone who takes spring training like numbers as like a major thing, but you know, it's always good to see. And you know, a lot of people were out on him because he really struggled to adjust to how the league adjusted to him towards the end of the year last year. So I know the big thing that he's struggled with is that high fastball. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how he approaches that going into the first month and a half here.
Yeah, I mean, he had that first like 2 months where he was like awesome last year and like greatest hitter on the planet, all that stuff. And then obviously he struggled to end the year. And like he mentioned the high fastball and stuff. I mean, he, like, again, we've talked about it, spring training, the like result doesn't matter, it's the process. And I'm not going to act like I watched every one of Patrick Wisdom's at bats, but I mean, if he's the progress you want to show or you want him to show in those at bats, like, is he still cutting at every high fastball that gets thrown his way? Is there, you know, is he having a better eye, like not doing that? I again haven't watched every one of his at bats, but that's what you hope for. That's what Cubs fans are hoping for. That's what Cubs, like, you know, David Ross and them are hoping for. That Patrick Wisdom, you know, he's done the work in the off season, and hopefully these first couple of weeks of spring training that he's looking and he's like, yeah, like the high fastball, I can lay off that. I'm not going to swing at every single one because that's what ultimately like really hurt him last year.
Right. I mean, every player that makes it in the majors has to go through a period of adjusting and then readjusting and then adjusting again. That's just what the game is.
Yeah.
You know, so we'll see if an off season of private workouts helped. I mean, it is one of those situations where I wish he had an off season with the franchise and that he could be with coaches and, you know, work in Arizona and do all those things. I mean, obviously the lockout impacts some guys, but hopefully he's been able to figure it out and it continues here in the Cactus League, and it'll continue when he gets to Wrigley Field for the start of the season, because we assume he's going to be on the opening day roster for sure, if not in the starting lineup. Another guy who's returning to the division, much to the excitement of Cody Delmendo, is one Albert Pujols returning to the Cardinals.
I'm so excited about it, Luke. I hope you can read it all over my face.
It's got you amped up.
I am so excited. I can't wait to watch Cardinal Nation just eat up all of the Albert Pujols content that St. Louis will provide. I am so excited for him and his buddies, Adam and Yachty, to get back together, get the gang back together. I'm so excited. Did I say that I was excited?
Yes. I mean, if you were any more excited, I'd walk up and slap you right in the face right now.
Please
Cody.
ratio us, Cardinals Twitter.
Yeah, there's
We've been
of,
ratioed. I don't really still know what that is, but I think we were ratioed yesterday when we put out the poll, right? We put a poll out asking, which retirement tour are you most excited for? Is that what it is?
Yeah, the poll we put out today was, are you excited to who is excited for the Pujols Molina Wainwright retirement tour? The options were nobody, absolutely no one, boring St. Louis, all of the above. And right now, 44% of the vote is going towards all of the above. So
yes, well, that's appropriate.
But Cardinals Twitter did find it. And
yeah, Cardinals Twitter. I don't like to give shout outs, but a big account definitely found us, and he sent his cult after us, and we finally were able to teach Luke what being ratioed means.
Sort of. Still not totally aware of what everything. But
yeah, that's literally like the live example that like when Luke was asking us like what does it mean to be ratioed? Like that's it. Like we could point right. If we had this last week, we could point.
That
to,
was That was a
CHGO
ratio.
Cubs was ratio today.
We're like 7/18 or something like that.
Yeah, something like
Not
that.
still not totally sure on that whole thing.
No.
I
But
mean,
it's gonna be a lot of nostalgia down in St. Louis this year, just for those three: Pujols, Wainwright, and Molina. Molina's the one that said this is his last year, right? Like this is his retirement.
yeah, I
year.
mean, Wainwright's 40,
I
gonna be 41, isn't he? I mean,
I think you assume that's gonna be like unless something like. I think the likelihood is that all three retire this year. That's just like one big nostalgia tour.
what's the likelihood that all three go injury free this season? Like almost zero, right?
I mean,
those three guys are almost as old as I am, and I walk around with Flexall 454 in my back pocket, and I don't play sports, right? Like, I mean, come on.
I heard they're on Athletic Greens though.
Since I started taking AG1, I feel 100% better. So I don't want to recommend that to Albert Pujols, but something he might want to look into. I just think if you're a Cubs fan and you're listening to this podcast, Albert Pujols signing with the Cardinals is no big deal. In fact, it might be a good thing. They've got three old dudes on their team, and the odds of at least two of them having a horrible season are pretty good.
Yeah,
because they're old, and that's what happens.
That is what happens. All of my memes and my tweets and everything related to the entire situation has nothing to do with the players. It just has everything to do with their fan base and how they're going to eat this up, and it's just going to bother me for 5 months. Like that's literally all it is. Like I can't even explain it, Luke. Ryan, I can't explain it.
It's going to bother you.
It is far and away going to bother me because all it's going to take, opening day, mark it down, which it would probably be Pujols first. He'll come up, he'll get like a 5-minute standing ovation that will feel like a 30-minute standing ovation. And then their fan base will go and tweet out and all this and self-proclaim themselves the best fans in baseball. Because not only would they do that now because of this guy coming back, but because that's what they've been doing my entire life is proclaiming themselves the best fans in baseball. And doing all of that, they just look like some of the worst people in all of sports fandom. I don't know how else to really explain how annoying that's going to be for 162 games a year.
Is it Brendan or Brandon on the chat that's saying, Pujols is saying he wants to go into the hall with Yachty, and it's like, does he really think that Yachty's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer?
That's what I was going to ask both of you, because I remember we were talking about it earlier, the replies, and someone said something that I don't remember what the exact tweet was or the reply was, but just basically saying that all three are first ballot Hall of Famers.
No. Pujols is a first ballot
in a completely objective way. Obviously, I know you both can be objective. What are the chances for either all three to be first ballot or just to be like eventually elected?
I think all three will get in. I just don't think that Yachty or Wainwright are first ballot. And the only reason I think Yachty will get in is because he's played forever. And like I said on Friday, he's like the Frank Gore of baseball. Like Frank Gore is going to get in the Football Hall of Fame one day because he has.
But the Baseball Hall of Fame is hard to get into.
That's true. But
there's a lot of good players.
But
not in
like,
the Hall
as
of
we've
Fame.
seen in recent years with the Baseball Hall of Fame, if you're good in with the writers, if the writers like you, they will let you in. That's the reason that David Ortiz got in, and he's got steroids on him. Meanwhile, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, Barry Bonds didn't get in because apparently they were dicks. I mean,
there's a lot of problems I have with the Hall of Fame. Sammy should be in the Hall of Fame. Pete Rose, frankly, should be in the Hall of Fame. I just don't get it. Like,
I'm just stating like that the way that they do it, there's a lot of hypocrisy behind it. Like all of the national
Sammy
media
should be in the Hall of Fame. Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame. Roger Clemens should be in the Hall of Fame. Adam Wainwright, I don't know, maybe. I don't care.
Yeah.
I think I kind of agree. Like Pujols is no doubt a first ballot Hall of Fame,
no doubt
Hall of Famer, and if he isn't, like, then something weird happened. If he isn't a first ballot Hall of Famer, Wainwright and Yachty and Molina, in my opinion, objectively, definitely are not. Definitely are not first ballot Hall of Famers. And I think we talk about Molina. You talk about Molina being over, but I think Molina has a better argument for the Hall of Fame than Adam Wainwright does.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Yachty's a 10-time All-Star, 9 Gold Gloves, 4 Platinum Gloves. He got his own Silver Slugger. I mean, he's a lot of accolades, and at least the last few years his hitting's kind of gone down a little bit, but he's always still one of the better defensive catchers in the National League. I think you can argue that, like, he's still up there.
Yeah.
Adam Wainwright, I mean, he's got 3 All-Stars. He led the NL in wins twice, and then he has 2,000 strikeouts. But
Hey, Ryan, I think the STLS Cardinal show has room for you if you're looking to join.
Well, I'm just saying, I think Yadier Molina has a better Hall of Fame argument than Adam Wainwright. I mean, I don't know.
I just feel like Adam Wainwright hasn't got enough credit over the years.
You know what? This is my fault. We've talked way too much about the Cardinals on a Cubs podcast. Like we've said enough. Okay, Pujols is coming back. We had to address it.
Dom, and I'm interested to see what he says.
Let's see. That's what I'm excited about. Let's get to the director of morale so he can set us straight. Let's get this quick promo readout and thank PointsBet for sponsoring us, and then we'll talk Cubs.
There we go.
Yeah. So as Luke said, the best way to support CHGO is to download the PointsBet app and use code CHGO when you sign up. If you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content. You'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. If you have any questions, email pointsbet@allchgo.com, and we'll help you. Remember that PointsBet is your home for live in-game betting. They even have a new exclusive feature, live college basketball same-game parlay. For the first time ever, build the perfect live same-game parlay only with PointsBet. Combine your favorite bets anytime during the game. You can even boost your live same-game parlays. And now online signup is available in Illinois as well. You can actually download the PointsBet app right now and register your account from start to finish, all from your phone. And I say it every single time, guys. If Luke can do it, you all can do it. Dom's listening. He can do it. So signing up with the fastest sportsbook is now easier than ever. So you can start living your bet life in seconds. Use code CHGO to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. So what are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
Hey, CHGO, we're doing these podcast live shows every day, every team. We got the post-game shows starting next Thursday, pre- and post-game shows. Premium written content for members at allchgo.com. That's where Ryan's stuff will be coming in. And of course, you can find our dope merch there as well. All kinds of great stuff coming out. Free shirt when you become a member and a members only Discord. It's the CHGO Lounge. We appreciate your support. All right, here we go. The director of morale. We've been trying to get him on since we started up the podcast a few weeks ago. Dom Frederic, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you, and thank God you're bringing me on before you went any further with that conversation about Yachty and the Hall of Fame and this total boondoggle that's happening right before our eyes. I hope you can hear me.
Oh, we got you.
We got you.
This is a joke.
It really is. I mean, we spent way too much time talking about the guy. Like, he doesn't even deserve our attention at this point.
No, I want to keep talking about it because it's that big of a joke. What's happening right now? The fix is totally in with Albert Pujols and Yadier, most overrated athlete of all time, Molina. It's a joke. You guys touched on it perfectly. This is a play by Albert and Yachty to try to get in to the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. Yachty's riding the coattails of one of the greatest right-handed hitters of all time, riding the coattails like he did in 2006 when he was absolutely abysmal for that World Series run. People don't talk about that enough. It's a joke. This is Yachty's textbook plan. It's always been this way. It's why every single year he's going to complain about not getting the gold glove because he feels entitled to do so, just like he feels entitled to be a first ballot Hall of Famer when he doesn't deserve it. And a couple months ago, he had a lower career WAR than Jason Kendall. It's a joke. The fix is in.
The fixes.
You don't think so? You're saying you don't think Jason Kendall's a first ballot Hall of Famer?
It's absolutely disrespectful that we have the same conversation about Yogi Berra, Johnny Bench, all the great catchers at the same time when Yadier Molina can't even have a higher career WAR than Jason Kendall. Cub for life, by the way. Jason Kendall.
You can see.
It's a joke. It's a total boondoggle.
Boondoggle. I love it.
You can see why Dom is one of the first people I told about when I got this job, because I feel like we feed off the same energy.
Oh my God. Hey, I was just being an objective observer, and I didn't even say that Yachty should be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
No, you were reporting the facts.
I just
Yeah.
said that
Ryan, I don't have a problem. You know what? It's fine. I understand. I know what the point you were making between Wainwright and Molina. I'm just trying to, pull the curtain up behind this absolute sham that's going on. And frankly, in my mind, when I first heard the news, I said it's either got to go two ways. It's either Yachty should be forced to pay for Albert Pujols' contract to go on this, merry-go-round retirement tour, or he's doing it already, because that's the only reason that Albert should be back. It's an absolute joke. It's a total Hall of Fame move. I might have gone on too long, but that's how I feel.
Fair
You
enough.
never can go on too long, Dom.
Let's talk about the Cubs. All right. We looked at this team, and a lot of people have talked about Nick Madrigal as the director of morale. Talk me into what piece of the future Nick Madrigal could be.
Glue guy, the guy that the Cubs didn't have for that whole run, going back to what we hoped Nico Horner could be at the end of the, golden era of the Chicago Cubs. I think you all have probably talked about before. Contact, get the ball, get him over, get him in type guy, lay down the bunt when you need to, scrappy type of guy. Margin for error is a little low. I mean, if he struggles, there's not a whole lot there, considering the glove isn't great. Consider it's not like he's this, burner on the base paths. He's got to put the ball in play, and I think that's what he's obviously going to do. But hopefully the hits fall, and he's a guy who can hit over 300. You can get on base at least like 360, 370 per, average. And then, maybe hits a couple dingers here and there and plays average defense. But he's the glue guy. He's the guy when you're building up a team with potential, Brennan Davises and, some big boppers down the road. Cubs are probably going to sign a big, free agent hitter in the future. Well, you need guys that can, keep the rally going, keep the line moving. And it's something that the Cubs didn't have. I mean, I can think of a few guys like the Chris Coglins, the Dexter Fowlers, the even some guys that we didn't give enough credit for kind of keeping the line moving, like thinking of a few are Miggy Montero played a big role in the playoffs like that. So he's one of those guys, but I'm glad to have him, but the margin for error is a little low, and we'll see how it plays out for 2022. I don't know if people are going to be super excited about him in 2022. I think they'll be more excited about him when he has a better cast around him, and his, how would I put it? His glue skills kind of show out a little bit more.
Dom, yeah, I mean, you're talking about, keeping the lineup moving and keeping the order moving. Do you see a better option for like your typical leadoff hitter on this Cubs team? Madrigal's
and they've needed one since, like he said, since Dexter left, we've been looking for a leadoff man on the north side.
92% contact rate since he came in the league, which I think it was number one. 100 is number one of anyone that had 100 at bats. I mean, you talk about Dexter Fowler was that glue guy at the top of the order, set the table. I think Nick Madrigal, just with that contact rate alone, his whiff rate, his strikeout percentage are so low. Also, I don't think it's a better option to be your typical leadoff man. But I would like to hear your thoughts.
Well, I kind of come from the school of thought where on base percentage is everything. And if you look at the numbers, and I'm assuming you all have, he's going to walk 3% of the time, and that's extremely low. So to me, I kind of see him more at the bottom of the order after you've gone through, your big boppers, and maybe you get a strikeout in there because those guys are going to strike out more often than others. And then you have Nick coming up with hopefully, men in scoring position, and then he can get him over, he can get him in, whatever it may be. So that's kind of how I see it. But it's not that him leading off is a bad proposition. I'd rather have Nico lead off because I think he's a little faster. I think he's going to take more walks. I think he can hit for a little bit more pop. But those two guys are huge. And I think, bookending them in the lineup would play a big role to any type of success this offense has. And considering, I know I'm the director of morale. I know I'm supposed to keep it positive here, but looking at the lineup we have, it's going to have to fire on all cylinders if we're going to do anything on a consistent basis. I think that's a fair assumption for what this team can put together. So we'll see, but I'm definitely happy to have those two guys with some unique skills, especially unique to the north side over the last, whatever it is, 7 or 8 years.
That's what I was going to say, Cody. I just want to see somebody that's going to make contact.
Yeah, I mean, someone brought this up to me on Twitter over the weekend. Is like maybe he's like kind of like what Starlin Castro was. Like Starlin Castro was part of a lot of those bad Cubs teams,
sure.
and then like
without chasing the butterfly in the field.
yeah, and then like I always felt bad for him in a way because like the Cubs traded him right before they won, but he was a part of building that next team. And Dom mentions glue guy, like he brought a lot of grit and I don't know, just fun, and also like he was clearly one of the better players on those rosters. I do think the Cubs roster is better than those 2012, 2013 teams, but
for sure.
I don't know.
Rizzo doesn't have a walk-up song without him.
Right. True. But I guess to me, that's probably the best outlook I've heard anyone say about Madrigal at this point. And I don't know. To me, it's kind of, I don't want to put Dom down for this, but like, I just feel like there's more to it because we haven't really seen him. Like he has 300 career at bats, and he's batted over 300 every level of his career that he's been at. Sure, the defense at this point doesn't look great, but as far as a hitter, there has to be more than what we've already seen. And to me, like, I know we're kind of flooded with a lot of infielders right now, but that's kind of what this year's for, right? They have to evaluate who, like, if you can get 500 plate appearances out of Madrigal this year and he bats over 300 and has an on base of 350 or whatever, you're looking at that guy and you're like, he's part of the future.
Yeah.
And you're thinking he's more than just a guy that's going to get you to James Triantos or whoever. You know what I mean?
My
Cody,
friends that are
on
Sox
set
fans
today?
were angry about it, that he was included.
Cody, who let you on set today with those shoes on?
Oh man,
Thought you have to wear Jordans on set.
Yeah, I know.
Looks like the points bet didn't go this well this weekend.
No, but
dirty shoes.
Dom, I just wanted to go back. You said that you you're top of the order guy. You come from the school, like on base percentage is the most important. Madrigal, he does have a 358 career on base percentage, which is not elite, but it's still above average. You want that to get higher, obviously, for your leadoff hitter. But
if he
I
could
think
walk, he'd really go.
But then even Cody kind of made the point. He's got 300. He's 300 at bat, something like that career.
Yeah.
Like he's still got plenty of room to grow and develop. And I mean, maybe it goes the opposite way, and he starts striking out more and is not getting on base. But then that's what this season is for, is kind of developing, because at least profile wise, Madrigal could be the leadoff guy, second baseman for those next great Cubs teams if he develops and is, raises that on base percent. Everything I just said, I think he profiles as a guy that could be the leadoff man for a very good Cubs team. But then that's what this season is for, is trying to develop that and trying to see what you got.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to make something very clear. We better not see any games where Jonathan VR or Andrelton Simmons is taking at bats away from Nico Horner and Nick Madrigal. It can't happen. Like, I understand they need a day off, but now if we're on the precipice of Wilson Contreras getting traded and, we made some moves in the offseason, like now's the time, like you've been saying, to let's see Nick Madrigal for a full season. Let's see if Nico Horner can play a full season. Let's see if, plenty of the other guys that we are probably going to talk about can, have the year we're expecting and can change the way the Cubs offense looks compared to what it's looked in recent years, even if we don't have all the, big names or, talent, if you will, that we hopefully will have in the future.
Tom, that's why Corey and Cody have been so adamant about Jason Hayward's role on this team. Like, he can't take it. It's no disrespect, but he can't take at bats from guys that you're trying to find out about in the outfield, right? Like, that's the same argument.
Yeah,
he's a fifth outfielder.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
fifth outfielder.
I had the. Sorry, go ahead, Dom. Go ahead.
No, he's a fifth outfielder, and I have a history with Jason Hayward because, not to toot my own horn, but I was one of the first people back in 2016. I know Cody knows what I'm talking about, who I was saying this guy isn't it, and I got murdered for it, and then I kind of just over the years just didn't care anymore because it's like, this is what it is. You're going to get the same guy every time, and you can't tell me that Clint Frazier, Hermosillo, or even Ortega, Ian Happ, like, these guys need to show out and play. Jason Hayward, like, he should be on another team. He's not meant for the Chicago Cubs. It's no disrespect, but he's a fifth outfielder here. And I don't know. I can't say anything other than that. Great teammate, great guy. Everyone loves him in the locker room, but he's just not meant for this team. And if I'm the Chicago Cubs and I'm taking this year seriously, even if you're not trying to compete, he's a DFA candidate because these at-bats this year are precious. They are very, very meaningful to figure out what we have, like you've all been saying, for the next, 23, 24, 25 Cubs.
Yeah, I mean, it's just Hayward's situation is just very unfortunate at this point.
Well, he does everything. He does everything right off the field. He's the
Right.
leader that you want. He's the guy in the community that you want.
Right.
He was a big part of 2016. He's done everything.
Yeah.
He's willing to move to center field. He does everything a fan and franchise can ask of a player, but he's not the player they need him to be on the field anymore. So now you're looking to the future. And like you said, like if it's coming down, if you're going to tell Cubs fans that Wilson Contreras has to be moved for prospects because you're looking at the future, well, then the other side of the coin has to be that Jason Hayward has to be playing way less or DFA'd or whatever the situation. He can't be playing regularly at Wrigley Field this year.
Yeah, and that's what we talked about the last time with Rafael Ortega. Like as much as you liked what you got out of him the last couple months or last few months of last year, and it's probably would be best for Rafa Ortega to be on the opening day roster, on the 28-man roster. It's just like Hayward and Ortega are like kind of in the same, like they're both lefties, probably going to platoon with Hermosillo or whoever else gets put in center field. But it's just too hard to kind of you can't DFA Hayward. I guess you can, but they won't. The Cubs won't. I think Hayward would willingly be a bench. I don't know that he'd be happy about it, but he would if Rossi said, we're going with anyone else. But it's just like there's not enough room on the roster to have both of those guys and just and make sure Hayward gets on the field. Like this is not like the situation is murky, and I get why.
The reason why I say it's unfortunate, it's like Hayward had his worst season as a Cub last year, and everything that came with last season, that did not help. I know he was hurt last year and everything. And kind of like what Dom said, he wasn't good. He wasn't living up to the contract, in 16, 17, but somewhere in the middle of that, like 19 and 20. In 2020, he was the best hitter the Cubs had outside of Ian Happ for those 60 games. And then in 19, he was, 19 was probably his best season as a Cub. But that's why I'm saying it's unfortunate. Is like he had a bad season last year. I feel like he's deserving of like the opportunity. It's just where the Cubs are as a team right now. It just doesn't make sense. You don't want to give away opportunities from Hermosillo or Happ, especially Ian Happ. Whenever he's more important to the team right now than Jason Hayward.
If it comes down to one of those two, it would make more sense baseball-wise for a team that's retooling or rebuilding or whatever you want to call it to play Ian Happ. That just makes sense.
I'll agree with that.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think that's super controversial to say that.
No, not at all.
No, it's not. But you got to be careful what you say because there's a lot of people that love Jason to death. And again, I know we've listed all the adjectives on why he's great for the team, but it ain't it anymore. It's not like we've done this too many times. This is year number 7. This is too long. Like it's time.
Well, I'd like to see, he should be welcome back to Cubs convention, all those things. I'd love to see him be part of the organization, maybe even on Rossi's coaching staff, but I don't know that playing center field every day is going to be the answer. And I don't know that the Cubs think that's going to be the answer, but I guess we're going to find out in about a week.
Yeah, we'll see.
In about 10 days, we're going to start to find out what they think of the situation.
Yeah, we'll see what Rossi decides to do with his lineup by then.
Dom, last week on Friday, we talked about like the roster and we went over Jordan Bastian's like 28-man roster or whatever. Obviously, there's 2 guys out. Who are the 2 guys out for you? I'm assuming Hayward's one of them, but who's the other one? Or if it's not Hayward, who are your 2?
I don't see Hayward. My other guy who I'd be kind of nervous of, the whole Andrelton Simmons VR thing, like I guess how many infielders do you need? Kind of what I was going back to earlier. It's like I have a really hard time if you're not going to compete and you're, this is what it's going to be and you're going to see what happens. Like, I want to see Nico Horner and Nick Madrigal play every single day. They shouldn't be taken out. And again, I would have a different perspective if the Cubs were to go after Carlos Correa, or if they were a little bit more aggressive in free agency and they were, actually trying to get up to that $200 million payroll threshold. Then I'd feel differently and I'd say, all right, we need as many guys. But now it's like, if we're just, I don't want to say throwing in the towel, but if we're just rolling the balls out, then I need to see the Brendan Davis's, Madrigal, Horner, like those guys need to have every single opportunity they can. Clint Frazier, I don't know if Hermosillo falls under that same category, but it's just my way of saying, listen, if this season is going to go, I don't want to say down the drain, but if it might be a lost season, it can't be a lost season for each individual player on the roster. It has to be meaningful for the guys that we need in the coming years.
No, agree with all that. And I think of that group of players and there's a pretty good sizable group that you're trying to figure out what they are. To me, I still think Frazier is the guy that has the highest ceiling. Like if you as a Cubs fan are wishing for one of them to come through this season, Frazier would have an upside, I think, that's higher than the others based on age, based on where he was drafted, all of those things. If one of those guys can come through, put your hopes on Frazier because he has the highest ceiling to that group. And that's why he's got to play a lot. Yeah. And if that means that it's got to be in left field, then that means Happ has to be over in right field.
Right.
Or somewhere.
Right.
Yep.
Or
DH, but he's got to be out there.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Yeah, no,
even if we're not going to compete, it cannot be a lost season.
Yeah, you have to come out of the season with like answers to some questions.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's what we're talking about. 2022 has got to be this. And that's when we brought up why I think Brendan Davis won't be up that early, why some of these other young guys that everyone's excited about in the system won't be up earlier than the second half if they come up this year at all. It's because you have a bunch of guys on the rosters with question marks that you want to see what you got. The Cubs want to see what they have in them too, and that's again, there's only so many roster spots, only so many opportunities to go around in 2022, which is why you think about and then the pessimistic side of it is like these guys aren't going to be on the roster. There's Rafael Ortega's and Alfonso Rivas's and all these other minor leaguers won't be up for a long time, for maybe not this year at all, just because there's only so many opportunities you can give to a bunch of, to try to find answers to some question marks.
All right. I want to get to something that, I've talked about with almost every person I've interacted with today, and that it doesn't have a ton to do with baseball, but the Oscars thing last night does have a little something to do with the Cubs, in that Marcus Stroman actually tweeted about it, and he's been supportive of Will Smith for slapping the face of Chris Rock, saying so much respect for Will Smith. Don't let anyone talk down to your family, making jokes about the autoimmune disease alopecia that Jada has been open about. Should never be tolerated. Protect your people at all costs. I love Marcus Stroman, and I love that he's out there putting out his opinion. I respect the opinion. Personally, on this one, I would love to have a discussion just about it, because I'm totally the opposite side. Dom is the director of morale. I'll be the director of moral and say you can't slap somebody. I was watching it and I thought to myself, I can't wait to see what athletes are going to say about it on Twitter. And I knew Stroman would be one of the first ones. And again, I hope he has a great season. And I love his openness. And that's what you like about a player that goes out and tweets. But I'm watching it and I'm thinking, first of all, I thought it was fake at first. And then as someone else pointed out, I knew Chris Rock couldn't act. So I thought, well, okay, that's real. And then you're watching it. I'm like, I mean, even let's just take the fact that it was a bad joke by Chris Rock. It happens. He made a bad joke, maybe even had ill intentions with it. There were ways Will Smith could have addressed it. He could have just yelled at him the way he did. Keep your wife's name out of my mouth. He could have confronted him afterwards and discussed it like two grown men. Instead, he went up and assaulted a guy who, luckily for him, didn't press charges. Like, there's no defense to that.
Yeah.
No,
The only way you go up and slap somebody is you're defending yourself. Or exactly.
Get off my
They're
lawn.
showing the graphic. Get off my lawn, Grandpa Stuckmeyer. You're telling kids it's good to go up and just slap some guy because he made a joke. No, that's not cool. Then they stood there. Not only did they let him stay there at the Oscars, which up to this point had been irrelevant for about 5 years, they let him stay there. And then they gave him a trophy, let him make an acceptance speech, and gave him a standing ovation as a quote unquote hero. You can be totally supportive of people who suffer from alopecia,
For sure.
and of your wife without going up and punching a guy in the face with an open hand. Like, what?
Yeah.
I just thought it was crazy. And so I was sort of stunned that was the reaction that Stroman took, but I would be curious to have a deeper conversation with him about it because I don't get it.
Dom, congrats on being part of the first Grandpa Stucky rant of our short podcast's history.
It took the lowest moment of the Oscars.
No, I agree. I agree.
Right? You can't.
No, I agree. I think for as someone who, has myself talking about running through the outfield wall and at Wrigley and being all tough, you can't promote violence against someone and then be celebrated for it. I think not saying it's a greater conversation, but I think Cubs fans should probably get used to Marcus Stroman speaking out whatever is on his mind. And he has his opinion, that's fine, but don't be surprised if it's going to offend or ruffle any feathers. And we'll see how that plays out as the Chicago Cub. This is not going to be the first time this happens.
Sure not.
Like everyone's been saying, like, obviously respect that Marcus Stroman has an opinion. Respect that he wants to give that opinion to the world. But it's just like when you knew it was something was going to come out, regardless of whatever side he was on, just based on how how much he's on social media. And I'm like, I was just like, I think I didn't put the notification alarm on, but I'm like, I can't wait to see what Stroman says, because I knew he was going to say something.
And he's not the only one. He's not the only person I've come in contact with that are like, oh yeah, that was great.
I mean, Stephen
That's
A.
what you should do. Is smacking like, what?
Yeah, Stephen A. Smith is on your side.
Yeah,
he put a long rant about that.
I mean, you can't.
All I'm going to say is that taking that slap and just not not reacting negatively. I mean, he reacted like
Chris Rock. You mean?
Yeah, Chris Rock taking that slap and just not going after Will Smith, not saying anything, like letting the situation die while he was still on stage.
Yes.
I mean, kind of respect for Chris Rock for that.
He was a professional. Even if he was mean and spiteful with a joke on purpose.
Yeah.
Even if that was the case, I was impressed that he took a punch to the face and still handed out the Oscar. Slap, punch, whatever it was. I'll tell you right now that was a lot harder than what Kendall Gill did to Tim Doyle. way harder than that. And that got a guy fired at some point. You can't on live television, you can go up and slap a guy.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think Chris Rock just did that. He was like us. Did that really just happen?
Yes. And I will say, we've seen. It's funny because I'm a little hypocritical. We watch sports and we cheer and go crazy when guys do things. Malice at the Palace was a point where you realized, okay, that's not cool.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But then, you're watching Michael Barrett at one point punch AJ Pierzynski, and you're like, well, that was all right. And people are going crazy in their shirts. And but this wasn't a sporting event. This was a comedian making a joke.
Right.
So I guess my question to you guys, what in baseball gets you so hot that you're on the border of doing something stupid?
Oh boy.
Oh man, you want to go?
What about the game of baseball or the Cubs? What we talked about Wilson Contreras a little bit, but what gets you so hot that you're you lose control of what you're doing?
I was gonna say in the press box, man, when the umpires are reviewing something and they just make a call and don't even tell us what the call was, and we have to guess about it. Oh, that gets me so hot. I'm only half serious about that, but that's one of those things I'm like,
but that's a thing.
Do what the NBA does. They go right up to the camera and say exactly what's going on. I want that because that helps me do my job.
The amount
better.
of times Shambi has said that on a broadcast last year was at least 10 times.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go slap anyone because of it, but I'm like, I need the help. It helps me do my job.
I don't like when there's, and this is a popular opinion, but the unwritten rules being broken and then they're gonna throw at someone. when are we going to see Fernando Tatis take a fastball to the shoulder and miss 3 months because somebody got their feelings hurt?
That's a
like,
good one,
you know,
Joey.
that's bullshit.
Instead, he just rode a motorcycle. Yeah, for me, I think it's not really a thing anymore because they banned it, but the shift was always the worst. I hate the shift. Clip this.
We going through this again?
There you go,
Gonna
there
do
you go.
He's
this
ranting about the shift, and he said shift.
The shift is the worst thing in baseball. I hate the shift. It's only good whenever it benefits the Cubs, and that's it. When it hurts the Cubs, it's the worst. I hate the shift. I'm glad it's gone. Yeah, end rant. Dom, what you got, man?
Two things: Yadier Molina being considered first ballot Hall of Famer, and the Ricketts family, less than 500 days after saying biblical losses, is out trying to buy Chelsea FC. That will not get me more fired up than being told that the organization does not have any money, being told verbatim that baseball and business operations are being cut at this very moment. Wow. The owner of the Chicago Cubs and his family is trying to purchase a Premier League soccer team. It's an absolute joke. Everyone I talk to, they'll talk around it, say, well, it's not really going to affect the Chicago Cubs. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. It absolutely will. His investment across the street, the hotel across the street, the all the other stuff across the street and in Wrigleyville clearly affected their ability to add on to the core in 18, 19, 20, 21. This will obviously affect the Chicago Cubs in a similar way. It drives me crazy. I feel like I could be even more animated about it. But it's just it's just lying to Cubs fans' face. That's all it is. Just lying straight to their faces about the money and the finances and everything that goes on with this organization while you're trying to, buy a soccer team. It's a joke.
He makes a good point about the lying to the fans' faces, because I said that about the whole Wilson Contreras saga last week.
Well, it's going to be tough to explain if they do it.
Yeah,
if they do trade him, that's going to be another tough PR day for the organization. Like,
yeah,
you can't say you're going to be competitive and then trade one of the top 5 catchers in baseball.
Right.
You can, but it's going to be tough to explain.
I know everyone around the organization, they cringe when they hear the word rebuild. They cringe when they hear the term reload or retool is iffy, but rebuild is something that will never be said again outside those walls, outside the federal or from inside the federal landmark. And I'm not saying Jed has to come out and do it, but you need a little bit more transparency while they are actively trying to shop Wilson Contreras, and they are actively refusing to discuss any contract negotiation. Not even like a 1-year deal, a 2-year deal, not even like, hey, Wilson, how are you doing? What do you want to play for? None of that's happening right now. Again, while Tom Ricketts and the Ricketts family are trying to purchase a European soccer team. It's frustrating.
Frustrating is putting it nicely, man. I would say it's worthy of running through a wall or something with anger or something. You know what I mean? Like, you speaking for
that's why
so many
when
people.
I heard you guys talking about Pujols and Molina, I just haven't had the motivation to talk about the Cardinals while I feel like we still need to clean up our own home. We need to clean up our own living area right now as Cubs fans, speaking to the organization, speaking to ownership. We have bigger fish to fry, regardless of with the Cubs being competitive or not, regardless of them signing Seiya Suzuki and Marcus Stroman or not. We have stuff right now that we have to figure out really before we can move forward, because I find it very hard to find any positive aspects of 4 generational Cubs coming through the Cubs system, coming through the minor leagues, doing everything they have to do to win this organization a World Series, to make this team relevant, where they are having an incredibly hard time to re-sign. Some were offered fair deals, but some weren't. And that just doesn't bode well for future Cubs and then obviously prospective free agents in the future.
So, Dom, I'm just trying to clarify your stance on it. You're not saying they had to re-sign the entire core. You're just saying bits and pieces of that core, whether it's one guy, two guys, three guys, four guys, some of the core, it's not like they're bad baseball players. And I understand, like what you're saying, some were offered fair deals, but it will be strange if the only players to be extended are Kyle Hendricks, and then I thought it was going to be Wilson Contreras, but it doesn't look like that. Like that
Doesn't seem like it right now.
That would be very odd that none of the position players. It's not like they all became bad baseball players,
right?
Like you would at some point.
Yeah,
you do have to overpay for one of your own guys sometimes.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and like I said,
yeah, I think it's. Yeah,
Sorry,
where I'm coming from is more that it is professional negligence to not sit Wilson Contreras down at this moment in time. And who I just talked to the other day said there is absolutely none of that happening. They haven't even asked what we want. They haven't even asked, what side is going or what one side wants compared to the other. Like, no negotiations are happening. And it doesn't matter if you don't want to re-sign him, fine. But at least have the decency to say, all right, Wilson, like, what's the deal? What do you want? Where are we at? How can we help you? How can we accommodate you? The same thing for Chris Bryant. I mean, I think the fact that Chris Bryant left on the terms that he did, and we're still weary about, was there the $200 million deal that Cat put out? I know there are a few people on Twitter that will defend Chris Bryant to the grave to say that never happened before. We need more clarity. I don't think we'll ever get that clarity as fans, but it definitely leaves a bad taste in the mouths of these players because I talked to them. I know this is what they're pissed about it. They don't like that this went on. They don't like that, Wilson Contreras is being left out in the rain or being left out to kind of whatever play out this, last couple games or last couple months with the Chicago Cubs and not having the chance to at least explain his side and explain what he wants because he's a Chicago Cub and he's been a Chicago Cub for like 14 years. It's crazy.
He was 15, I think. I mean,
17.
I do find it odd that they're not having any conversation with him because there has to be a price where you're like, that would work for us, and you can still be part of the next great Cubs team, as they like to call it.
Yeah.
I think they run the risk of doing something that the Bulls did, which was the Bulls let those guys go, and then none of them wanted to come back because of they couldn't get free agents to come here because guys like Michael and Scotty and some of the players were out there telling people they don't treat guys the right way. Chicago doesn't do it the right way. And I'm not saying the Cubs do that. I'm just saying you don't want that to be the narrative that starts to spread around Major League Baseball. You don't want your core guys, someone who's obviously the emotional leader of the team now, to go out with bad feelings. You don't want Chris Bryant crying when he leaves. You don't want Rizzo to say, I have no regrets over not signing the deal. They have to be very careful, and it's a tricky road, and that Jed Hoyer's going to have to go down here with all of this because you have to make sure if they do send him packing, Wilson Contreras, and maybe they get back two great prospects. I don't know. I'm just saying you have to be careful of the narrative that will start to spread throughout Major League Baseball because sooner or later you're going to want to sign a big name free agent. And the first question that guy's going to have is, well, what happened after 2016? And that's just a realistic view at it.
Yep.
Like that's got nothing to do with what offer was made each guy. I'm just saying that has to be taken into consideration because the worst thing you can do as an organization for free agency is get a bad rap going around the league about the way you're doing things. So be careful.
I mean, and to Wilson's credit, when he was after the arbitration stuff, the 22nd, whatever day it was last week, and he got asked about it. And like, again, to his credit, he's like, I get it. Like we just came off the lockout. They have to fill out the roster. I kind of get why I haven't been approached about extensions because they're doing so many other things. So to his credit, at least publicly, he's like, the Cubs aren't doing me dirty is what he's kind of saying publicly. But at the same time, it's like, well, what he doesn't want to do contract extension talks during the season. He said that which means you have 10 days, whatever it is, 10 days till opening day, and then you go in, you have whatever his arbitration number is going to be. You have that 1-year contract, and then you unless he goes back on what he wants, then you're not going to have any extension talks till the off season. And at that point, are the Cubs going to run the risk in July of letting him walk for nothing? Yeah. I don't know.
It's
and that's
basically coming down to like what they decide in July, man. Like, and it's going to be real interesting if the Cubs fuck around and manage to hang around in the division race or wild card, and it's late June, early July, and they're hanging around.
Yeah,
it's going to be real interesting to see what the Cubs do, because kind of like what
they were
Luke
lucky
said
last year when they went on the losing streak. Otherwise, it would have been real dirty.
Exactly. Like, I know, Luke, you believe that we've talked about this off air. You believe that no matter what, they were going to trade those guys.
I do.
And that's fine. You can believe that. I just find it really hard to like actually take in that information and believe it as well. Like, that's such.
It would have been ugly.
That
would have been ugly. But I think that they had made up their mind. They weren't re-signing the guys, and you have to get something back. And the only way to build the farm system was to trade those guys once you decided they weren't worth what they wanted.
I get that.
And so I think if they had a 5-game lead in the division, I think they were going to trade those guys. They were at least going to trade the majority of them.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But
again, yeah, it's just wild to really think about if they would have actually done that or not.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad that we didn't have to live through that. It was already bad enough the way that it was. But yeah, no, I think for Contreras, the way he's approaching everything, it's better than the other 3 guys in a way, the way that he's going about it. So
real quick, from the 4 of us then, yes or no, Wilson Contreras will be on this team at the All-Star break. Do you think he'll make the trade? I don't think he will. I think just the way it's gone now, the last couple of weeks, I think he's gone.
You said at the trade deadline or the All-Star break?
Let's go trade deadline.
Okay.
After the trade deadline, will he be on the Cubs?
Dom, what do you got?
No chance. I don't see him making more than 2 months on the roster.
Oh,
wow.
No chance.
That says a lot coming from you.
You're supposed to be boosting our morale.
No way.
Yeah,
no way.
I want to believe in Patrick Mooney,
sorry.
man.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I
know not to cut off your answers. The one quick thing I would just want to say is, Jed, along with what you were saying, Luke, about the narrative that, the Cubs are going to have with free agency post the golden era of the Chicago Cubs, he also needs to understand that he's not Theo Epstein. He does not have the charm. He's not the speaker. He's not the former lawyer. He's not the guy that can bring. He's just not. And I've tweeted this so many times. He's a cutthroat businessman. Here's the offer. Take the offer or get out of my face. That's how it works with Jed. And we've seen that happen for the last year with all these contract negotiations, all the, tension between player and ownership, or player and front office. This is how Jed operates. And he has to understand that, and hopefully have the wherewithal to see, do I really want to be perceived this way? And do I really want to go down this road of being cutthroat Bill Belichick, but I can't win like Bill Belichick? I don't know. I wouldn't do it that way. I would be a little bit more understanding. I'd have a little better perspective on what I'm actually doing, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Give us a devil's advocate.
Yeah,
why would he be on the roster? Do you believe he will?
I think he will.
Okay.
I think, and it all comes down to what they do in the next 10 days, I think, as far as contract extensions. I think he plays well enough that the Cubs want to have him back. He sees the plan. Like, maybe I just think there's a chance there where Jed and Wilson, they both do sit down and realize, like, hey, we want to make this long term, especially when you consider that the level Contreras is as a catcher in the majors. I think Jed and him they sit down, they figure out that they want to do this, and whether that extension goes into the regular season, it could, if Wilson really sees, like, hey, they want to talk. I think he's here. I think he's on the Cubs in when the trade deadline hits, and then I think he is, but I also think it also depends on where the Cubs are at as far as record-wise, as far as what they're seeing from all these other young guys that are on the team. I think that also depends on how the rest of the season goes, but I'm going to say that I think Contreras is on the team.
Listen,
That's what
guys, I just said, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think this comes back to the same. You mentioned Theo, Dom, and that's, I'll say this till I'm blue. I believe that's why Theo left. It had nothing to do with in my opinion, this is just an opinion. I don't think it really had a whole lot to do with when he said, I'm leaving in 10 years. I need a fresh start. It's not like he's out doing a ton of stuff. He's got jobs, but I don't think he wanted to make these decisions and tell these guys. After talking through the organization, I believe he said, I don't want to be the guy that has to trade Rizzo. I don't want to trade. I don't want to trade Javi. I don't want to have to trade Wilson. I don't want to trade KB. You know what? I want to leave with good feels. Jed, here's the keys. Have fun. I'm out. I've done enough. Like, that's how I feel. It just smelled of that. Like, he was like,
absolutely.
That is a rebuild that we would be doing. And I don't want to do it again.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough hearing it from Dom saying that, like, he thinks there's no chance, but I am
no chance, Cody. No chance.
You need some consoling here.
Yeah, I need some consoling with that, but I don't know, man. I think, with as far as like rumors or whatever going on right now, we were just talking about over the weekend was Bruce Levine that said that there was chatter, but then a few days before that, Patrick Mooney said that they haven't been in talks with anyone regarding it. I don't know. I think it's
Patrick Mooney's a great reporter.
Right. Yeah. And they're both good at what they do no matter what. So to me, it's just kind of like right now we don't truly know. So to me, the Cubs, they have to know this. They can't be this stupid. They can't be this stupid to go and just not save face with the fan base with everything they've already done. Like there has to be one thing that they can give the fans. They think that they've given the fans what they want when it comes to Marcus Stroman and Seiya Suzuki. And yeah, those are great, but they know that the fans want Contreras to be around. And I'm not saying you re-sign Contreras just because what the fans want, but his position in particular, it's not like you can find another guy that talented at that position. You know what I mean?
Tough.
So to me, it's like, not only are you gaining some trust back with the fan base if you find a way to keep this guy around, but you're also setting the team up for the future. I just, maybe I would consider it a little bit more if Amaya was going to be ready, but he's having Tommy John. Like, I don't even know if he's had it yet. Like, Yan Gomes is a nice backup. He's not going to be your starting catcher for a good team. I just don't see it at this point. I mean, you send me a rumor.
Can I interject here and give?
Sure.
Go ahead, man.
Interject and give a little bit of positivity, considering I know that's what you're looking for. If there's one position, and I know there's going to be people that disagree with me, but if there is one position you can skate by with a defensive catcher, a defensive first player with the DH now, it's catcher. All you need at catcher is a guy who can handle the pitching staff, block baseballs, and frame, call a good game, all that type of stuff, which is more cerebral, and you don't necessarily need the talent. We've seen other World Series teams or competitive teams. We saw the Astros last year with Maldonado. Just have a guy who can handle the staff, have the DH handle the hitting situation. He hits at the bottom of the order. That's how it goes. I just think Jed views it from that perspective, and it's not worth paying what easily could be $110 to $115 million for Wilson Contreras. And when you start talking those numbers, as much as I love Wilson, as much as I appreciate what he's done, I get that side of the argument where it's like, all right, it's not worth it. What I have issue with is the fact that they're not saying it to his face, and they're not having the conversation to his face and the people he cares about, his agents, whatever it may be. That's my issue. It's not that they're not willing to pay for it. It's the fact that they're not willing to have the discussion and tell him in person.
It's a good point.
Good point, Nam. Hey, if you enjoy CHGO, one way to help us continue to grow is to download the PointsBet app and use the code CHGO when you sign up. Not only are you going to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000, but if you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you get a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content. You even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. Any questions? Email pointsbet@allchgo.com, and we will help you out. And in case you missed it, online sign up available in Illinois. You can download the PointsBet app right now and register your account start to finish, all from your phone, even my phone. You'll be signing up with the fastest sports book, easier than ever now. Start living your bet life in seconds. So what are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. All right, quickly before we let Dom go, we've been going through each position and where the Cubs rank in the division, we think. Today's position is first base. We just set the Cardinals fans on fire by putting Yachty dead last in division for catcher. It was not a popular decision among St. Louis fans.
Yeah, they could suck it.
So let's start at the bottom of the division this time and say, who has the weakest first baseman position? I would say it's the Pirates.
Yeah.
It's Daniel Vogelbach.
Yeah, it's
Maybe just
Vogelbaum,
start-
which I had high hopes for him once as a Cub.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because he was in Milwaukee last year.
Yeah.
Got that, I think it was a hamstring injury in mid-season, and then they picked up who their first baseman is now. But yeah, I mean, Vogelbach, not even gonna lie, he's like if you're putting him last place in the division of first baseman, it's kind of a good little bar for where first basemen are.
It is, but there's a lot of good first basemen.
Yeah,
It's a position where you can get a star player pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be interested to see how the Pirates use first base moving forward because Vogelbach, I mean, with the DH now in the NL, he should be doing that more than anything. But alas, I mean, he just hasn't been good since 2019.
Right.
So that's why he's at the bottom of this list.
So we put Milwaukee next at fourth, right?
Rowdy.
And then we go to the Cubs and Frank Schwindel at third. Dom, what do you think of Frank Schwindel going into this season?
Besides the fact that he's not a real person and he's a former video game character, I think he's got to play every single day. I love the fact that he puts the ball in play. I love the fact that he's scrappy. I love the fact that he can work in at bat, kind of like Anthony Rizzo. I love the fact that he's simply a grinder who was in the minor leagues for years and kept hitting and hitting and hitting and hitting and was in every single organization that had a legit first baseman, like the Athletics, like the Tigers, like the Chicago Cubs. And finally, he's getting his chance. I hope he continue to prove me wrong, who thinks he is from MVP Baseball 2005. The people that follow me know exactly what I'm talking about. And I hope he can continue to prove that he can be part of potentially the next great Cubs team. I think there's a way for him to do that. And, good, wholesome guy. He's hanging out in people's garages for Christmas. Like he's, living on the South Side at some, whatever, just neighborhood party, wearing ridiculous clothes. If you saw that over the winter, it's all good stuff. Good guy. And I think third's a very fair place to rank him in terms of NL Central first baseman.
Yeah. Schwindel, I mean, a lot of people, just like Patrick Wisdom, kind of like,
what if he does it again this year?
That's the thing about Frank Schwindel is he hasn't had a down point. The league still hasn't figured him out yet.
That's what we'll have to see. I think third, for not knowing if he'll have that down point, how he'll bounce back from that. I think third is perfect. Should we just get the last two up there real quick?
Yeah, then we did Goldschmidt and the Cardinals second, and that's because, to me, Joey Votto's still the benchmark that you put for
first ballot Hall of Famer. If there's any first ballot Hall of Famer that we're talking about today, it's definitely Joey Votto.
More than Adam Wainwright and Yadier Molina, that's for sure.
July, or was it that mid-summer run that Joey Votto went on was just unbelievable last year. I covered a few games in that, and it was
he's a Cubs killer too.
It was nuts.
But it's he's the one Cubs killer that I'm like, God, I hate you, but I respect you so much. You don't get that with Ryan Braun and Christian Yelich. I know how Dom feels about Christian Yelich. And other players.
All right.
Hey Dom, we really appreciate you coming on today. We don't take it lightly having someone of your ilk on the podcast. It's impressive. We appreciate it. Would you be willing to come on a post-game show maybe at some point this season? Talk with us again.
Absolutely.
Bring the morale. Bring some of the morale blend. All right.
Absolutely. Yeah, you guys know it. I appreciate you guys having me, and I know I've told Cody this in private, but I'm congratulations to you all who have had this new opportunity. and are doing all these great things. And for your company that's investing in content creators and media personalities, I think it's fantastic, and credit to you all. I think it's a great opportunity, and you all are going to do great things with it. So I wanted to make sure I said that before I left. But thank you again for having me.
I appreciate that for sure.
It's all love, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. And we will talk to you soon. Thank you for dropping by the CHGO Cubs podcast. Thanks to our great guest, Dom Frederic, the director of morale for the Cubs. Tomorrow, comedian Joe Kilgallen will join us for the pod in studio. Until then, go Cubs, go. Keep your head up and fly the W.